Hey, it's Jason Hartman. Welcome back to another lesson where we talk about multifamily properties. In our last lesson, we talked about the humble single-family home, and that is my favorite asset class within my favorite asset class. So you've got income property, my favorite asset class, the most historically proven asset class in the world, and then within that, you've got different types of properties, and single-family homes being my favorite, but they are not without a few flaws. Now, maybe in today's lesson, we can talk about how we can cure some of the flaws of single-family home investing with a different asset class, multifamily investments, apartments, apartment buildings, apartment complexes, the stuff the big guys do, right? So this could be anything from 5 units and up. For financing purposes and for many of the government laws in the U.S., of course, I'm talking about, because I know we have a worldwide audience, so I understand that. And so much of the world comes to the U.S. to invest in real estate because we really have such a fantastic real estate market here in the United States. My company has clients from all over the world. Asia, the Middle East, Europe, South America, Canada, we're in the U.S., but we have clients from a lot of Canadian clients too, and just from all over. So it's really a very attractive market. Now, in terms of the government laws, we are talking about anything here that's above 4 units. So 1 to 4 units is sort of in that single family area, even though I understand it's not technically single family if it's 3 or 4 units. But multifamily here, we're talking about apartment buildings that are maybe a little 5-plex or a 300-unit apartment complex. Anything over 4 units. So 5 and above, that's multifamily for purposes of our discussion and many of the things. And the beautiful thing of it is that you really do have some terrific economies of scale. So in this lesson, we are going to learn about the characteristics of multifamily deals. We're going to talk about the advantages and the disadvantages, of course. There's pros and cons to everything, folks. I think you're getting the hang of that by now, probably long before you took this course, because there's pros and cons to just everything in life, right? Let's dive in and look at some of the characteristics. So they're valued based on the income they produce. And that is usually expressed in terms of what's called the capitalization rate or cap rate. And the cap rate is okay as a metric. I don't think it's great. Why don't I think it's great? Well, it leaves out some important things that we have talked about on prior lessons, and we're probably going to talk about on future lessons. But the 2 main things that you want to be conscientious about in cap rate that you don't consider is you don't consider financing or leverage. We talked a lot about leverage. And you also do not consider appreciation. And so that's the flaw of the cap rate metric. But in the world of commercial real estate, everybody's talking it's a 5 cap, it's a 10 cap, it's an 8 cap, whatever it is. So they're talking about cap rate a lot. So that's kind of the name of the game in the commercial real estate world. You're going to hear cap rate constantly. Increasing the income will increase the value of the property in almost all cases. With everything I say in this course, there could be some weird exception here and there. I understand that. I'm talking generally, of course. Increasing income will increase the value. The less favorable financing and depreciation make it's kind of negative there. So, and when we talk about depreciation, of course, we're talking about that as a good thing, because depreciation is a tax benefit. And we love tax benefits, especially when they are in the form of what I call non-cash write-offs. Talked about that in the last lesson. But here, multifamily property and other commercial properties have these longer depreciation schedules, making them less desirable than our humble single-family home. And that depreciation schedule is really about 25% longer. So it's pretty significant to say that your tax benefit, assuming you can qualify for it all, and that's a complex discussion. You note my little disclaimer at the bottom. I'm not a tax or legal advisor. Please consult a CPA, an appropriate professional, okay? And so that's a big deal, It's 25% less beneficial from a tax perspective. So keep that in mind. Okay, advantages, push appreciation. This is probably one of the biggest advantages of apartment and commercial property investing. If you increase the income, as we talked about in a prior lesson in depth, you increase the income, you can really increase the value. And you're not subject to the broader marketplace because you can do that with inside your property. So sometimes seemingly small items, okay, you could have a 70-unit apartment complex, and by upgrading the laundry facility or making a better deal with your vendors, say, for example, you're working with a company that leases the laundry equipment to you or does a revenue share, by making a better deal in that department and increasing the income, you can really increase the value. It's kind of surprising, really, how small increases in income, maybe renting out storage units or carports or garages or something like that, something on your property that is not fully maximized, increase that income, you can really increase your value. Economy of scale. So you have your economy of scale in that you can more easily invest a lot of money, right? It's harder to do that with single-family homes, admittedly. If you have $20 million to invest and you want to do it with single-family homes, that's going to take longer and it's going to be a little harder for sure. So you can more easily scale it in that sense. But there's another way that you can scale it, and this is beneficial too. You can have an on-site repair crew, an on-site handyman. You can take a 100-unit complex and use all the same doorknobs and all the same shower heads and all the same toilets and all the same garbage disposals. And if they're all the same, it's a lot easier to manage and fix that. And you can benefit from bulk pricing potentially on those items as well. So you do have that economy of scale, and that can be really nice. You have also economy of scale with management. Typically in a multifamily property, when you get above about 70, 75 units, that's when it starts becoming reasonable to have on-site management and an on-site leasing office. And if you can do that, you have potential for better marketing and better scalability with managing your tenants, so that can become a little bit easier with on-site management. Okay, also more efficient, really my second point here, more efficient to scale into a larger portfolio. So economy of scale and push appreciation. That's the two main takeaways from this. So disadvantages. What's the downside? What are the cons? We talked about the pros. Less attractive financing. Definitely the single-family home, our humble little single-family home, offers the best financing far and away. It's dramatically better. Less attractive to tenants. Like I said before, ask a tenant where they want to live, single-family home or apartment, the vast majority will say they'd rather have a single-family home. That is the goal of most tenants. Lack of ability to have this, well, not ability, but lack of pull appreciation in the overall marketplace. So what do I mean by that? Well, when we talked about the humble single-family home, the pull appreciation happens from the comparable sales, from housing affordability, and just from kind of scarcity and emotional components and things that aren't really that logical always. And I say that's a good thing. I like that because you can exploit that to your advantage. So that's good. When the market's really frothy and everybody's making multiple offers on single-family homes, heck, you can you can really win in that circumstance. And then similarly, when the market is down, now the same thing happens in reverse in the single family market. And it, of course, happens in commercial properties too. It's just to a lesser degree because that market is more formal. It's more based on income approach than it is based on, this scarcity mentality and so forth, or abundance mentality if the market is down and you're bottom feeding deals off the floor, which can be very lucrative, obviously, too, okay? The higher capital costs for repairs, so in an apartment complex, in the last apartment complex, the last big one I owned, 125 unit complex, and I was talking to my partner about that, and we were worried about some of the potential for upcoming repair bills we might get. They might be some big ones, and we thought, I don't know if we want to stick around and keep this property. Maybe it's better to unload it and look for something else that doesn't have some of these issues. And so we did end up selling that big property, that big apartment complex. And, you definitely could run into some large capital expenses. I mean, a single family home investor, when they got to replace a water heater, they think, oh my God, that was terrible. That was, a few $100s or several $100s. But a big apartment complex, boy, the sky's the limit almost, right? You could get some really big bills. So less attractive financing, less favorable to tenants, and the lack of pull appreciation. And I don't want to say that's absent completely. It's not. And this is why cap rates go down in very frothy markets where everybody's buying and the real estate market is going nuts and it's out of control. You'll see cap rates go down, and that's not because the income went down of the property necessarily. Mostly it's because people are just willing to pay more to get the same amount of income, because you do have, and that represents the pull aspect. It just happens more so in the single family home world. Okay, so what are the action items for this lesson? Again, these badges here, they're pretty easy because these are just kind of do a quick little narrative. No big deal. Nothing too analytical here. Just simply explain your multifamily property investing strategy. What do you think would be the right way to approach this market? A paragraph, maybe two, and we'll get your badge for you, and we'll look forward to talking to you on the next lesson.